Auburn head coach Hugh Freeze said on the Next Round podcast, "I am not a fool." And then proceeded to tell what he thinks Auburn fans expect from him and why they're probably better off with him than they might think. Let's talk about that. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on Step Mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round. So if that is something you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Do you believe that Auburn will go bowling in 2025? And what do you think will happen, two-parter, if they don't go bowling in 2025? Now, you'll know that Auburn went 5-7 last year, but they showed signs of being a good to decent football team, particularly against Oklahoma, which ended up going bowling, but ends up 6-7, and then taking Texas A&M into the deep water and really making a mark there. We're looking at the quarterback situation, and we understand that, it's probably going to be Jackson Arnold as the starter quarterback at Auburn, and he's going to have tools, right? You got Eric Singleton out there. You got Cam Coleman going into year 2. People expect him to be great. I think they squandered a great tailback last year, but, we could keep going on about Jaquez Hunter and what I think about that dude. But I think Hugh Freeze is also already beginning to stump for his job by saying a couple of things that are also true, right? Before he gets to Auburn, they hadn't had top 25 class in recruiting in 4 years. Since getting to Auburn, they've had 2 top 10 classes. But we're also talking about the transfer portal getting on and popping. We're also talking about name, image, and likeness going into a year 4. And we're also talking about an SEC that got bigger and deeper at the same time with the additions of Oklahoma and Texas. Hugh Freeze walked into Auburn knowing that this was going to be the case, coming from Liberty. Now, people expected him to have the same sort of success at Auburn that he did at Ole Miss. Different era of football, different kind of player. Certainly a roster that you got to manage with money and not with national letters of intent. Changes the calculus. You're also the second school in Alabama, and you're always going to be the second school in Alabama. There's no getting around that part, which is why I think it's important to point out that Auburn has not had a winning football season since 2020, and they haven't won more than 6 games in a season since 2019. Gus Malzahn goes 9-4. That's about where you would expect Auburn to be happy, right? Because you are Auburn. Cam Newton needed to put on for you in a way that nobody's put on for one football team for you to win a national championship. I realize there are people that believe that Reggie Bush, Barry Sanders, Vince Young, or even Joe Burrow is the greatest college football player who ever lived. There's a whole bunch of dudes that we could list in there that I didn't. But when you look at what Auburn had around Cam Newton, and you realize that it's simply him and Nick Fairley on the defensive side, you can better understand what it meant for Cam Newton to win a national championship at Auburn. I don't see Auburn winning a national championship in the near future or in the far future. It's that difficult to win at that level in that league. That in and of itself should tell you what kind of a Herculean task it's going to be for Hugh Freeze to give Auburn fans what they want, which is to not just go bowling. They want to go to the college football playoff. That is the barrier for success now. Did you make the playoff? There are 12 teams that get selected. Easiest way to be one of those selected teams, win the SEC championship. Oh, yeah. Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, LSU. LSU is going to be a monster this year. These are teams that all expect to compete for the SEC championship. And Arkansas ain't no slouch. Ole Miss ain't no slouch. A&M ain't no slouch. Texas. Oklahoma is going to be better than it was, and I think that's the one-to-one that you really want to look at. South Carolina was a handful last year. They were the Auburn of SEC football last year. They played one of the toughest schedules in the country and still won 9 friggin' games. The game they lost, a bowl game to an Illinois team that we expect to be a top 10 team going into the preseason this year based on what they returned and how well they played. They even gave Brett Bielema another 6-year extension, which is kind of cool. But we also get a Hugh Freeze saying, look, I'm not an idiot because I know what our fans expect. And then he said bowling. I'm like, ooh, no, dog. No, they expect to play in the playoff. That bowling ain't going to do it in Auburn, Alabama. That's not going to happen. That's not what it is. Maybe you can go bowling in Opelika, or you can go bowling in, it's escaping me just a second. Hold up. It's not Mobile. Dothan. Yeah, maybe you can go bowling in Dothan. You can't go bowling in Auburn. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what it's going to be. They want to compete with Bama. They want to look at the Iron Bowl and say, we got a chance to win this thing, as opposed to getting grave-diggered. Got buried by 4th and 31. 4th and the goal at the 31-yard line, dog. It's hard to come back from that. Auburn had Georgia dead to rights in 2023. Couldn't finish it. Brock Bowers said, all right, it's my time. And then went full Nikola Jokic on us. That's what happens at Auburn. It's that hard to win over there. But you added some pieces, right? You got some people around your quarterback that you expect to be decent to good. I'm also going to just go ahead and put Hugh Freeze on blast here, dog. You be saying this stuff. You know, you like to say, I remember what Johnny Manziel was doing. I had Nick Saban. I should have 2 or 3 more wins against him. I just couldn't take my foot off the accelerator when it was time to sit on the ball, and I kept giving it back to Alabama, and Alabama did what they do. I also was able to beat Saban. Yeah, but Saban ain't coaching no more. Can you beat Kalen DeBoer is the better question. Can you beat Brian Kelly is the better question. Can you beat Josh Heupel is the better question. Can you beat Steve Sarkisian? On and on. Right now, dog, you can't beat Brent Venables. And that wasn't the pejorative that people thought it was, or think it is now, 3 years ago, right? You beat Oklahoma 3-4 years ago. Okay, cool, right? But you beat them now. Yeah, that's what most people do. They beat Oklahoma now. Only one double-digit winning season, both of the others losing seasons for Brent Venables. That's who you're being compared to. So when you say things like, hey, I know what our fans expect, I got to ask that question. He's still saying we might be a year away from having a full, roster worth competing with. And I'm going, you ain't got another full year. You got to get it done this year. Because the ways in which they were losing football games, the ways in which they think they can win football games are getting slimmer. You're going to have to take advantage of everything you have at Auburn in a way that you never had to before, because you're working from a deficit. I believe that it's as hard to win at Auburn as it is almost anywhere else, right? Mississippi State, it's a little bit more difficult to win there. Vanderbilt, it's a whole lot more difficult to win there. But if South Carolina can pull it off, so can you. Remember, South Carolina plays in Clemson's backyard. That's what you're dealing with here. You have to be better than those programs. And for that means you just got to be up there with Arkansas most of the time. But Arkansas is a great example of what I expect Auburn to be every year. Good enough to be competitive against everybody but the SEC. But the top echelon of the SEC, those top 6 teams are always pretty damn good. And you got to have a magical quarterback. You got to have a magical year. You got to have a defense that just doesn't give up anything ever to believe that that's something you're going to be able to accomplish in as far as playing deep into the postseason. Ways to go, man. Ways to go. I would be shocked. I would be shocked to see Auburn get to 7 wins this year. If they get to 7 wins in the regular season, 12 games, go 7-5. I'll be shocked. But bowling, yeah, you ought to go bowling because you're going to have those gimme games on your schedule and you're going to have 1 or 2 SEC teams that suck. But the rest of those, they might beat the brakes off of you. And I'm telling you, it's going to be difficult to be the head coach at Auburn next year if you don't beat the brakes off of somebody, especially late in the season, and make them feel good about keeping you around. What I'm saying is you need to do the Billy Napier and you need to do it right now.